Want to make your credit card points and miles go even further? Take advantage of transfer bonuses. Today, we're talking all about how transfer bonuses can help stretch those points and miles even further. Welcome to Points Talk with the Travel Mom Squad. Hey, I'm Alex.
And I'm Pam, Alex's mom.
And I'm Jess. Let's talk points. It's no secret that we love our credit card points and miles. They are the key to our amazing travels all over the world. We are all about stretching them as far as we can. Today, we are talking about using transfer bonuses to get even more out of what we have already earned. But first, you're probably wondering, what is a transfer bonus? So luckily, we have Pam here to tell us all about transfer bonuses and what they are.
So, transferable points programs like American Express, Chase Ultimate Rewards, Capital One Venture Miles, and Citi Thank You Points all offer transfer bonus throughout the year. They're periodic. They're not all of a sudden, maybe a couple will offer some, and sometimes there's none. Sometimes there's none at the start of a month, and then there'll be some later in the month. So they offer a bonus so that when you transfer your points into a particular airline or hotel program, they're going to give you a bonus. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Honestly, I have found I get more excited about a transfer bonus that's to an airline than to a hotel. But, depending on your circumstances, you may be just opposite. So a recent transfer bonus that I did take advantage of was one, it really was a great transfer bonus. So American Express offered a bonus of 40% for transfers to Virgin Atlantic. That's an amazing value if you travel to London like I do. And I like flying Virgin Atlantic in business class, of course. It's amazing. So you could transfer 100,000 membership rewards to Virgin Atlantic and get 140,000 Virgin American miles. It's like an extra 40K just because.
You mean Virgin Atlantic miles?
What did I say?
Virgin American.
Oh, interesting. I'm looking up new airlines now. You never know what's going to come out of this grandma's mouth. So, yes. So, Virgin Atlantic, it's like getting an extra 40,000 K. I mean, if you do a few of these during a year, it's like you're getting an extra welcome offer or two. I mean, it is amazing. Now,
what's really cool too about this one in particular is it's not just like, okay, if I'm going to fly Virgin Atlantic to London, then I'll book this. You can book some Delta flights on Virgin Atlantic. So it's not just that you might be thinking, well, I never fly Virgin Atlantic, or any of these airlines that we will talk about later on the episode. You can book their partners as well. And so it's just, like you said, such a really cool way to save and stretch your miles further.
Exactly. And we actually don't suggest that you speculatively use them or transfer points, use the transfer bonuses to transfer into airlines or hotels unless you have a plan for them. But I travel Virgin Atlantic a lot. And so I know that I'm going to use that. And so I recently did. And I'll talk about that, down a ways here. But I recently did say, hey, I'm transferring a bunch of points in there because I know I'll use them. So if you always travel with a certain airline, like we travel Air France all the time. So it makes sense sometimes to say, I got a lot of points sitting here in Chase. I've got a lot of points sitting here in Amex or Capital One. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to speculatively use that transfer bonus to stretch my miles even further now or my points. But for most people, it's probably not going to make sense. It does for us because we travel all the time. We know that we use these airlines.
I think, too, it makes sense when you have a lot of points.
Yes.
Because if you don't have a lot of points and then you go speculatively transfer and then you want to go book something, but you don't have points left because you transfer them to an airline and that airline isn't who you need for this upcoming trip you want to book, then you're kind of stuck. And so if you're sitting on a stockpile of, a couple million points, then speculatively booking is probably not going to be a big deal for you.
Yeah. And I think that's why it makes a lot of sense for us. I'd say for someone who is new newer to the game, then I would only do it if I had plans to use that, or if I was going to build a trip around that transfer. I mean, you could certainly do that if you're flexible and you're going, I don't know where I'm going to use these points. Hey, this transfer bonus just came up. This makes really good sense for me to go to London now. I've always wanted to go there. Let me use that transfer bonus. So, Alex, share some of the tips and tricks that we found with transfer bonuses.
Yeah, so my mom keeps a blog post updated. It is she publishes at the beginning of each month, and then as offers come out, that will get updated. It's one of the most popular posts on our blog. In fact, I believe if you go to our blog main page, it's saved as one of the top ones. So it's pretty easy to find. So some of the transfer bonuses we saw last year, we've seen a lot to Air France, the Flying Blue program over the last year. And those are some of the ones that I've taken advantage of. What's really nice about Air France Flying Blue is they have these Flying Blue promo awards where you can get flights from Europe to and from the United States. They change each month. But for example, you might find something like 10 to 15,000 points on Air France to Europe from Phoenix, for example. And that can be a really good way to save because then you can stack the transfer bonus on top of that. So it may be, let's say it's a 15,000 point one-way flight in economy. Then you stack a transfer bonus on it. You're going to be paying less than 15,000 miles for that flight. And so when you can put those two together, you can really have some really good savings. Another nice thing with Air France is they do, or Flying Blue has that kids 11 and under get 25% off award flights. So you stack that with a transfer bonus, you're saving even more for your kids' flights. And that's not like just a promo that comes and goes. That is always a thing. It only works for Air France and KLM operated flights. But I've used that for my kids, and it is a really great way to save. But when you can add that transfer bonus on top of it, you can get some pretty incredible savings. We have also seen Virgin Atlantic transfer bonus. Like my mom said, there was one recently from Amex to Virgin Atlantic, from Chase, and Citi have had transfer bonuses to Virgin Atlantic. Chase has had transfer bonuses to all the different Avios programs. Citi has had transfer bonuses to Qatar. And then we've also seen a lot of transfer bonuses to Avianca Life Miles. One thing that's kind of interesting about the Avianca Life Miles transfer bonus is that is sometimes it'll be on Avianca's end. So how it works with, like, if you're transferred from Chase, to Air or Flying Blue, Chase is going to give you more points in your Flying Blue account. Sometimes with the Avianca Life Miles will be the ones putting the more. It's coming from their end, which is kind of unique to how the other bank transfer bonuses work. So that could be a good one. And then we've seen from Citi to Turkish Airlines as well. So really cool. And that's just for the flights. There's plenty for hotels that Jess is actually going to get into now.
And I also wanted to add, we do not know when these are coming.
Yes, thank you.
People will reach out to us and they'll say, should I wait until next month to transfer these? Is there going to be a bonus? And I'm like, we have no idea. We find out when you find out. We find out when we go to the bank's website and they're advertising a transfer bonus. So unfortunately, we do not have an in with the Transfer Bonus Association or whoever comes up with the rules for which banks are going to have transfer bonuses to which airlines. We are just as much in the dark as you are.
And we don't know how much the bonus is going to be. Sometimes the bonus will be 20%. Sometimes it'll be 25, 30, 40%. I think 40 is the most we've seen for an airline transfer, which is incredible. So yeah, you never know. And you could be like, oh, there's a 20% bonus. Should I hold out for a better one? And it's like, I'm of the mindset of, if there's a transfer bonus and you're going to book, like you have a trip to book, I would book it for the 20% transfer bonus. And like, I'm not going to sit around and wait for something better, because something better might not come around. And then the flight that you want to take isn't available or something like that, So I'm all about taking advantage of them when they're available. And even though I have a lot of points, I don't speculatively transfer my points to, or take advantage of transfer bonuses unless I have a specific trip in mind. That's just my personal thoughts about it. Because I mean, I've only booked a couple flights through Virgin Atlantic, and so I don't want a bunch of points sitting there. So, yeah.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say too is that since I do write the post, we get it out the first part of every month. And I'll tell you that at the beginning of the month, it's slim pickings. And as the month continues, more and more transfer bonuses seem to come up. And so we do upgrade that, so keep looking, keep checking through the month, because by the end of the month, it's like, whoa, we started out with 3 transfer bonuses. In fact, for this month in January, there's only like 3 for Chase. There's none for for American Express or Capital One or City. But as the month progresses, there probably will be. That's been the way that I've seen it happen through the years. So anyway, keep checking back. So Jess, on to hotels.
All right, so I'm going to talk about transfer bonuses to or from hotels. I want to start this out by saying there has never, since I started this in 2015, been a transfer bonus from Chase to Hyatt. If there ever were a transfer bonus from Chase to Hyatt, I would 100% speculatively transfer every single one of my Chase points to Hyatt. But you already get so much value out of Hyatt that I don't see it happening. But if it does, I will 100% transfer all my Chase points to Hyatt. The first one I'm going to talk about is a little quirky. I have personally never done this, and I have no plans to ever do this, but I do want to throw it out there for you. It is from Marriott to airlines. So Marriott partners with 39 airlines. The transfer ratio is not great. It's 3-1. So basically, if you were to transfer 3,000 Marriott points, it would equal 1,000 airline miles. Not great. They do have a bonus, though, a small bonus. If you transfer 60,000 Marriott points or more with these airlines, you get a 5,000 mile bonus for every 60,000 points you transfer. If you transfer to United, you get a 10,000 mile bonus. So if you were to transfer 60,000 Marriott points to United, you would get 20,000 United miles plus the 10,000 mile bonus. So you get 30,000 United miles. Maybe that makes sense for you. I'm not huge into the Marriott program. I probably don't have any Marriott points currently. If you have Marriott points and you have no plans to stay at Marriott hotels and you're like, these points are just burning a hole in my pocket, I have no use for them, that could be a time where, hey, maybe you get more use out of them if you transfer them to an airline. I think twice last year, Marriott also had an additional transfer bonus on top of this 5,000 miles. They had like a 15% transfer bonus to Air Canada. Again, I'm not going to get too much into the weeds on this because I've never done this. Have either of you ever transferred Marriott points to airlines?
Never.
Okay. So like I said, there are some tiny, I feel like rare situations where it could make sense if you're not a Marriott fan, but you want to get use out of your points. Otherwise, I wouldn't worry too much about that transfer bonus. One that I have used is Amex to Hilton. So Amex already transfers 1 to 2 to Hilton. So if you transfer 1,000 Amex points, you're going to get 2,000 Hilton points. That's pretty good. Again, we mostly try to use our Amex miles for flights, but I do think of the hotel options, Hilton is the best hotel option to transfer from Amex. This can especially be valuable with the 5th night free that you get with Hilton if you have any sort of Hilton status, silver or higher. The other thing is just recently, I think a few months ago, they had a 30% transfer bonus. So that's 30% on top of the 1 to 2 ratio. So if I transferred 100,000 Amex membership rewards to Hilton, that would get me 200,000. Then I get 30% on top of the 200,000. So that's 260,000 Hilton points from 100,000 Amex. That could be worth it. I wrote a blog post about, some amazing deals that you could get with that. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I did with that transfer bonus. That was one where I 100% took advantage of that transfer bonus. And then Chase recently had a 70% transfer bonus to both Marriott and IHG. You may see this and be like, wow, 70%. That is amazing. I'm going to take advantage of this. I'm going to transfer all my Chase points to Marriott. Please don't. This is not as good as it seems. I do think it can make sense if you need to top up your points. Like if I actually did this, Ted was going on a car trip. He needed to stay, we needed like 5,000 more Marriott points for him to get a redemption. And so I transferred from Chase. I have never otherwise personally, even with a 70% bonus, transferred from Chase to Marriott or IHG. IHG has fourth night free, Marriott has fifth night free. Again, it could make sense. Like I always say, do the math. And that's for me. Like I think we've talked about this before. I'm wanting to get as much value as possible out of my points. If you're one of the people who's just like, I want to get something free, I don't care if I transfer all my Chase points to Marriott because this is going to allow me to get the redemption I want. You do you. Like, do it if that makes you happy. But I don't know. Have y'all ever taken advantage of the Chase transfer bonuses to Marriott or IHG?
I have not, but I did have a girl send us a DM recently, and she was like, I'm trying to figure out if this is a good idea to do this or not. And basically, it was with the 70% transfer bonus to IHG, and she wanted to stay at the Kimpton Seafire, which is 70,000 points per night. And with the transfer bonus and the fourth night free, she figured it would be 30,000 points a night, which is the same price, standard price. It was maybe 31. I don't know. It was pretty close to the standard price you'd pay to stay at like the Grand Hyatt Kauai, for
Yeah.
example. And I was like, yeah, like that actually makes sense because you can get the fourth night free. And I would say those are very like similar caliber level hotels. Granted, she's
Yeah.
going to have to pay resort fees to stay at the Kimpton Seafire, and you wouldn't have to stay at the Grand Hyatt Kauai. But I think that's one of those situations where it can make sense. And that's why it's really important to do the math, like Jess said, and to see like what do you value. And like I think that's a situation where it can definitely make sense. And I mean, I loved that hotel. So I was like, yeah, I that sounds like a great idea if you don't have IHG points.
Yeah, and I haven't done it either, but I absolutely would, especially the Amex to Hilton where you get the fifth night free. I haven't done that. I have bought some Hilton points so that I had enough to do that. And doing the math, it'd be interesting to see which way it would have been best. Maybe it would have been if that transfer bonus had been available, that might have been the best way. So absolutely, I would check into that.
All right. So, yeah, now we're going to each list up to 2 times that we've recently used a transfer bonus and how we used it in our favor. So, Pam, kick it off first for us.
Yeah, like I said, that American Express to Virgin Atlantic 40% offer, that just got me. I really like business class in Virgin Atlantic. I have traveled from Boston to London in Virgin Atlantic. I go to London all the time, so it just makes sense for me to do it. So I speculatively transferred 100K American Express membership rewards, ended up with 140K Virgin Atlantic miles. And I then took that. Virgin Atlantic has had some really good deals lately on international travel, and they've even lowered their taxes and fees. And so I was going to London anyway to visit family. And so I booked I never book round trip tickets, never. But I was just knew I was going there and coming back. And so I booked a round trip business class seat to London from Boston, and I only paid 58K, so that was 29K each way, and a total of about $600. I think it was 200 and something going over and 300 and something going back. It's always more expensive coming out of London Heathrow, and that was pretty amazing.
That's incredible. Is that when we go to Spain?
It is. Yeah, it's
Okay.
before we go to
So the
Spain.
3 of us are going to Spain, but you're going early to go to Lindsay's house, and then you're going at the end going on a trip with Lindsay, right? So then you're
Right.
flying in and out of London?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing. And
That's crazy. 58,000
yeah.
points round trip in business class.
Yeah. It was crazy. So I've always said I would never use a transfer bonus. I will only use my Chase Ultimate Rewards to, use for Hyatt. That's all I'll do. And that's pretty much what I do. And actually, in the past, I get my Chase Ultimate Rewards. I transfer them immediately into Hyatt. Well, I decided I had quite a few, and I thought, oh, let's just keep them out. Let's not just do that. Just what if something comes up? And we were getting ready, and Ash is going to talk more about the trip next that we did. And a transfer bonus came to Chase to Air France. It was 20%. And we were getting ready to book a girls' trip, my daughters and I, to Morocco. I'll let Alex talk more about it. But I thought, well, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I didn't transfer everything over to Hyatt so I could take advantage of that Air France bonus and get the tickets that I planned to book anyway for even cheaper. So, Alex, tell them about what we did.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is I haven't really used transfer bonuses very often just because the timing hasn't worked out with when I need to book something. And so the couple of times that I have both been from Chase, which is funny because I never like these are like the only times I've ever transferred Chase points to something other than Hyatt or to maybe top off a Southwest account with just a couple thousand points kind of situation. So, like my mom said, we did a Chase bonus to Air France, the Flying Blue program. These are flights we booked to and from Morocco in business class. I believe after the transfer bonus, the flights were about 55,000 points each way in business class. We are flying from where are we flying from on the way there?
You know what? I have booked so many flights
I know.
that I don't
It's
remember.
somewhere on the East Coast. It's always
We're,
on the East Coast.
we are
We
positioning.
are positioning, and you East Coasters have it good because you get like the best deals going to Europe. So we're positioning somewhere on the East Coast. So we go to Paris and then from Paris to Morocco.
I think it's JFK because I remember saying we
Okay.
can go to the Air France Lounge in JFK, which has really good food. Then I can just get on the plane and go to sleep. Just ask
That's
me
right.
about food. That's how I can figure
Yeah.
out where I'm, positioning.
Yeah. Which I was happy about because I was like, okay, good. Then I can just go to bed and not feel like, oh, I need to stay up and see what the food's
Mhm.
like. But we'll just eat in the lounge. And then coming home, we're flying same idea, Morocco to Paris to I-80. So we'll be going to Washington, D.C. on the way home.
From Casablanca.
Oh, but yes, from Casablanca. That's right. And it was the same price. So that worked out really good. And flights to Morocco, I thought we were maybe going to have to position on both ends. So it's really nice that we're only going to have to position in the US, not into Europe. I
Mhm.
thought we'd have to be like, we'll get flights to Madrid and then from Madrid we'll figure it out. So this works out pretty nice. And then the other transfer bonus I did was another chase to Flying Blue which was interesting. So I did a Chase transfer bonus to Flying Blue, but I booked a Virgin Atlantic flight. So it was 57,000 points was the total price of the flight after the transfer bonus. This was from Boston to London. So the same flight you did, Mom, that you're getting, 29,000? Mine
Mhm.
was 57. So the really cool thing is Virgin Atlantic they've done dynamic pricing and it's actually worked out pretty good. So yeah, I'm a little jealous of your 29,000 price. I thought 57 was good at the time, but now it's like you got that for a round trip.
Yeah, that was insane.
Yeah.
And then I transferred, like I said, I transferred Amex to Hilton. I actually transferred a lot of those during that transfer bonus, and I used them to book hotels in Reykjavik and Dublin for our trip there this summer. Hilton has been my go-to lately when there's not a Hyatt available or a good Hyatt available. And so I am excited about those properties. We're going with our family of 4. It's me, Ted, Molly, and Ella. And, they're really strict about occupancy in Europe. And so I had to get 2 rooms in each location. And so that transfer bonus really cut down on the amount of points that were needed for those reservations. And then another one I recently took advantage of was Capital One to Virgin Red. There was a 30% transfer bonus. This is complicated because I'm like, this is like an award travel 2.0 tip. But so Capital One partners with Virgin Red. You can link your Virgin Red account to your Virgin Atlantic account and transfer those points over. So I did Capital One to Virgin Red to Virgin Atlantic, and then booked a KLM flight via Virgin Atlantic. This was from Prague to Chicago. It was 16,000 Virgin Atlantic miles, which was actually 12,400 Capital One miles with the transfer bonus. It would have been 20,000 miles if I booked directly through KLM. So I know you think like 20,000 miles, that's not that bad. But I mean, I got it for almost 8,000 miles. You know, it was almost 50% off once you factor in the transfer bonus and getting it for fewer points to begin with through Virgin Atlantic. So that's just one example of a way that these transfer bonuses can really work in your favor.
Well, we absolutely love transfer bonuses. By offering a bonus percentage on transferred points, you can effectively stretch your rewards further, allowing you to book more expensive flights or longer stays with the same number of points. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please leave a review and share it with your friends and family.
Thanks so much for listening to Points Talk with the Travel Mom Squad. Make sure to hit the subscribe or follow button from wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. Want to start jet setting even faster? Follow the links in the show notes to learn about everything we discussed in today's episode. And to stay connected and follow along, follow us on Instagram at Travel Mom Squad. We can't wait to see where in the world points and miles take you.